next thing that we have to do is put the nut in. And this is the nut for the Y-axis. I had to order new dust bellows because the old ones were absolutely deteriorated. Let me show you what they look like. These are the old ones. And as you can see, they're they're not in good shape. They're deteriorated. They're worn out, probably because they were sagging. And if they're sagging and they're rubbing on that screw, you could bet that they're going to wear out and get little cuts and stuff like that in them. So I had to order these guys from McMaster, and they were not cheap. Okay, 2 of these were about $170 shipped. Okay, these are rigid. They're some kind of a rubber, some kind of neoprene rubber with nylon embedded in them. They're called rigid, and they don't really seem like they want to flex. I mean, you know, in terms of hanging down. So there was a lot of work that went into sizing these things the right way. You know, you had to allow for you know, the travel of the nut. Okay, and there's a positive stop here and there's a positive stop here, and the front of this nut and the back of the nut will only go so much, and I think it was about 6 3/4, somewhere around there, full travel. So what you had to do was I had to calculate you know, stretching all the way to one side, which was fine. You know, these things definitely, there's enough for them to stretch. The problem was compressing. As you could see, when they compress, they're kind of thick. So, you know, I had to find the happy medium of it compressing and being at full travel. I think I might have lost, I don't know, maybe a 1/4 inch travel up to the front and a 1/4 inch travel to the back, which is fine because the surface grinder wheel is only supposed to travel 6 inches because it's only a 6-inch wide chuck, but it allows for a little bit of overhang either way. So I was lucky to get it all worked out right. So here's the cutoffs. You know, I measured them, cut them to size, and we're ready to put them in now. And if you'll notice, this right here is this is a big cylindrical piece that gets bolted to the side of the casting, and it's got a fat flange on it which goes inside the webs, and that's what, you know, and as you bolt it to it, that's what holds the dust bellow in place. Alright, so we're going to install this now, and what I had done was, I'll show you what I did here. If you'll notice, there's no tower here, and to be able to lift the base up and move around and get to the bottom and stuff, I unbolted the whole tower and put it off to the side. And you know, we're gonna have to use a crane to get it back in place because it's heavy. Setting it down on the floor was easy because you obviously have gravity working for you, but I'm not gonna chance, you know, hurting myself trying to lift that thing up. So let's get the nut set up. We'll get the gibs in place. We'll get them oiled up, and we'll put the screw in. Before we move on putting the screw in and the nut, I want you to take a look at this. This is the front of the base, and I was just saying that there's a positive stop here and a positive stop, you know, back on the other side, and this is what the nut slams into to prevent it from going any further. But these edges under here are sharp. Okay, they're not sharp where you're going to cut yourself, but they're kind of sharp, and this diameter, the OD of this, really comes right up against it. It actually touches it very lightly. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my burr mill and relieve that edge and soften it up a little bit. Alright, so what we want to do now is get all the grindings out of here. You definitely don't want any grindings sitting on your ways. That's clean. Alright, first things first is this guide bar. And you can see by these 4 bolts here, 4 holes, the nut bolts to this, and then the saddle bolts to this. So, to make our life easier, we're going to get a bolt in here. Just to keep that suspended. Alright, now I can get to, I can get this thing bolted up nicely now and with a lot more ease. For the front end, the dust bellows is connected to a flanged bushing, and you insert the bushing here, and it's pinned with a set screw. Now you don't want to, wrench it down too tight, of course. Just enough to pin it. Alright, so now this thing will slide. Probably could stone this down a little bit. That set screw seems to be sitting a little bit proud here. No more noise. Good old carborundum stone. I got some questions about this. This is obviously broken, but it was about twice as long. These little carborundum stones, you could get these on eBay for between $5 and $10. I have a small collection I'm building right now. These are awesome. They sharpen lathe tools, they take burrs off, they do everything. I'm going to start by putting a little whey oil on our piece here. Get some into the oil grooves. That is nice. All right. I'll put the Gibbs in next. I'm sorry, after this. Here is our Y-axis screw. One of the things I need to do with this is load this puppy up. Some oil. Okay. As we get closer, there's a little spring with two pieces of plastic, and I think what that does is that takes up any play right here. It just gives it a little bit of, you know, snugness and tension. So as we get closer, we're going to drop that in. Alright, I think it's time to put this guy in now. Alright, I got that piece in. I'm going to put a little speck of lube in there. Just so this little plunger will ride up and down as it needs to. There. Alright, I pushed it down halfway and there. Now it's in. I want to saturate this felt with some oil. Now this gib has a little tiny keyway in it, which mates up with, there's a key right there, that allows that to travel back and forth. Then this one has this keyway, which is the gib adjustment rides inside that. baby. Alright, we got a nice fit, very nice fit. So in essence, this is basically your table lock. When you press tight, it squeezes and locks the gibs, and will wind up locking your table for you. Alright, let's get these last two screws in here. Bad boys down. Alright, I'm going to prime the lube system here by putting some oil right in here. This is going to feed down into the nut. Now we want to put some whey oil on the ways. Look at that. Because this is on a slant. That's some slippery ways right there. That's nice. Now I'm assuming that this wiggle room here will allow you to tram it in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tighten that guy down. That's nice and smooth. Mark indicator bracket. One of the things that I failed to mention before when I was putting on the head cover and this handle was the backlash in this elevator handle. And there's the weight of this spinner handle. So if you're pulling down 1/1000th at a time and you let go, you'll see that moves. Right? So there's a spring on the back here that takes that up. Now when I was putting this together, I just put the grub screw in and said that there was a shoe that pushed on there. But there's a spring. So that spring has to be loaded in there first. Then you put your grub screw back on. See, now I can feel it tensioning. So now there's no movement whatsoever, you know, and you can adjust that. Now what these are is a stop. Casting comes here and it stops the bed from going completely off the thing. I don't have that part, so I have to make one, but these are little plug screws that are just held in there. Get them back in. We got these last two little plug screws. Now we have these little tail ends that go on the on the saddle here. I've done the ones in the back. I spared you having to sit through that because it took a while just by the positioning. They're not very easy to get to. Now the same like I did with the saddle, I'm going to oil the ways. I'm going to prime them, the oil channels. I wipe down the bed, the table I should say. Wipe the table down, same thing, so there's no grit. And we're going to prime that now. Oh, that's nice. Now, one thing about this table, there is no stop and there's nothing that holds it down. You could lift this off at any time and you could push it right off at any time. Now this will be finalized, you know, when I get the handle back on, and I can set, you know, the gear travel. And just like a Bridgeport, I'm sure that this fence needs to be trammed in, and you know, you have plenty of wiggle room here, so. We're just eyeballing this thing for now. There. Now I want to check the range, see how it feels on the y-axis going in and out. See if I have those dust bellows calculated correctly. Alright. No binding. Doesn't feel like it's getting tight. And let's bring this all the way back in. Alright. That's right about at its limit. Alright, the last thing that we have to do now is put on the remaining dust boots. Again, I'm keeping these loose so it could move in there. I'm going to put the table back on and then bump this up against it and make sure that it's seated properly. I had these 4 extra slotted screws, and they got the rounded bottom, the tapered bottom, which means that they sit in this little tapered. Alright, mystery solved. I was wondering where these screws went. Line up the holes. Like I mentioned before, now this little tab here will hook right into these guys, and you could pull them tight and then tighten them down. All right. This is kind of bent up, but okay. Let's do the other side. chuck works good. Well, here you go, guys. Another one in the can. This was fun. It was a lot of work. And she's done. Done except for wiring with the VFD. The last part of this series will be, you know, wiring up the VFD and getting it actually running. But for the reassembly, it's all done. It's cleaned. It's clean as it's going to get. And I'm going to go handheld here and take you around for a closer view. Down to every last nut and bolt. Again, wiring not done yet. And this piece needs to be fixed. But the table, even as heavy as it is, just slides. And our empty parts department. We do got a couple of things over there, but that's for the electrical. Alright, part 5, like I said, will be getting this puppy up and running with the VFD.